This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. Yes, it has been a little while since we've been live here in the studio. We are back here in Colorado in the studio. Glad to be back. We've been on the road for quite a bit. A lot of the shows that you've been listening over the last 2 or 3 weeks were shows that I had queued up that were some of them of being very important, some of them being very personal topics for me, with the most recent topic being the orphan innovations. And I'll give you a quick update on where we're at with orphan innovations, the orphan drugs, and a number of you have been emailing me on a current update and status on Caleb. So I will give you that update at the end of the show before we wrap everything up. So today's show is an update. A number of months, probably almost a year ago, I'm guessing now at this point, we had a young entrepreneur on who was in high school, who had been working on a science fair project that actually was leaning towards actually becoming a commercial product. So in this case today, we actually have invited Nick Titus back onto the show. Let me bring him in here as we go. So hey, Nick, how you doing? Thanks for taking the time out Sunday to join us.
Yeah, doing good.
So
glad to be back.
So, you know, Nick, a year ago, you were still in high school. You had worked on your technology as part of a science fair project. And now we're a year later into the process. But before we jump into kind of the update, some of our listeners may not have seen the show that you were on the last time you were here at Killer Innovation. So give us an update. Yeah. Give us a little bit of background on how this whole thing got started.
Yeah. So I was working out of my high school engineering lab, my junior year of high school, and I had this idea for an external spinal cord, some way to reconnect the brain with the muscles. And so over a couple months, I created a small little prototype that used voice commands, so you could say open or close. And then it sent electrical impulses to your muscles, and it could open or close someone's hand for somebody who had had a stroke or spinal cord injury. And then in the summer of 2016, we participated in the Boomtown Accelerator, and from there started developing a business. And then about a month after we graduated from there was the last time I was on your show. So yeah.
Yeah. So the funny thing that I still think is hilarious is you did this as your science fair project, but you didn't win your science fair project. You didn't win the science fair contest.
Yeah. I actually got third place in the science fair. But that ended up being a blessing in disguise because of that, I didn't move on to the state science fair, and I had an extra month of class time that I didn't have anything to do with. So I decided to start a company so that this could get in the hands of those who it needed to help.
Yeah, it is funny because I use your story as an example of here's a young entrepreneur working on something he's passionate about. It's part of a science fair project, and when I describe your project and the fact that you didn't win, the one question I always get is, oh my God, who was the kid who won? What project was his project that won the science fair that year?
Well, it was some kids from Fairview, and they were in a senior research class in which you get paired up with some students from a university, and a lot of the kids kind of take some of the data from the college projects and put it up on a board and speak to it pretty well. They were good projects, but I guess mine was more engineer facing than science facing, and that's kind of where it fell short. But yeah, so here we are now.
So what's happened since the last time you were on the show? You finished up high school now, right?
Yeah. So I graduated about a month ago. So I went through, finished my senior year of high school, which was a little bit rough. It certainly was very tough trying to juggle the two and keep my priorities in the right way. But I did graduate, which was good.
Well, the one piece of advice I would give you on that, Nick, is welcome to adulthood.
Yeah, yeah, there was definitely a lot of things going on. And then the other, so on the technology side, one of the major developments we've made has been implementing brain control into our device. So the last time we spoke, it was still on the voice command system, but we've actually partnered with a company called Emotive, working with them and using their hardware in our device. And then we've written a middle layer software system. So it takes about 30 seconds to train in a command, and then somebody is able to just simply think open or close, and they can move their muscles in that way.
Great, great.
Yeah.
So you've had an opportunity to kind of talk more about your project. You've had a TEDx speech.
Yeah, so I just gave a talk a few months ago at TEDx CU, which was a really exciting experience. I got to meet people doing all sorts of crazy things. And the through line of my talk was how naive curiosity solves unsolvable problems. So it was all about how just by being kind of naive to the challenges that'll be ahead, and by being curious enough to ask the right questions, you can really tackle things in a new way, and you'll bring those new perspectives, and you'll be able to make new innovations out of your limited resources.
So do you really think then that the fact that you were in high school, you tried this project, that being naive was a big advantage for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I knew now, if I knew back then what I know now of all the challenges that there would be of bringing this thing to market, it would seem very daunting. It would be a huge mountain of work, and I might be too afraid to even tackle it. But by just looking at the exact next step, I kind of kept it that tunnel vision that allowed me to just keep moving forward. So yeah, certainly, I believe that's been one of the keys to being successful.
Who's been advising you?
Yeah, so we've had a really great experience of being in the Boomtown Accelerator. So that has been, I'm super thankful for, because we have connections with the entire startup scene here in Boulder, and different people in the medical device industry, which has been really helpful. And yeah, that's one of the advantages of being young, is everybody wants to give you advice, which is a blessing and a curse. Because people give you a lot of conflicting advice, and you have to choose which you're going to take. But it's certainly been very helpful to have everybody doing that.
Now, you've also gotten some recognition, right? So you've...
Yeah, so I participated in the Teal Summit in San Francisco in the spring, which was super exciting. I was there with 60 other young entrepreneurs from all over the world who had these world-changing ideas, and I got to see them pitch and connect with them, which was super exciting. And then we also participated in TechCrunch Disrupt New York. We found out that we were going to go there 5 days before the trip, and we had to put together a trip to New York in just 5 days. And then we went out there, and on the last day, we had our demo in Hardware Alley, where I had the headset on, we'd put the electrodes on other people, and then I could think and control their hand. And that got a pretty good reaction out of the crowd, because we were voted the top hardware startup at TechCrunch Disrupt New York.
That's amazing, because I mean, TechCrunch Disrupt is really trying to find that next thing that's going to potentially transform people's lives. It totally could disrupt an industry.
Yeah, certainly, and it was definitely an honor to be there, and then to receive that award was kind of mind blowing. We got a chance to be on the main stage, but there's a little bit of a scheduling issue. But now they're going to be, TechCrunch is producing a video and an article along with that, really covering our technology and our story as well.
Now, a lot of people may not know, but the Peter Thiel thing, Peter's known to actually pay people not to go to college. Right? It's part of his it's Peter's little thing that he has going on in the Valley.
Yeah, Peter Thiel definitely has some kind of questionable ideas, but I would say that's one of his more sound ideas.
Well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break here. So when we're gonna come back, if you've listened to the first show, there was this whole discussion that Nick and I had about what was gonna happen post him wrapping up high school. So we're going to save that for the next segment. You definitely are going to want to catch up and listen to that, and Peter Thiel will play into this a little bit. So as we go off, we're going to take this quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick up our conversation with Nick Titus, with Myonic, name of his company that he has started, and talk about what he's doing now that he is post high school, graduated last month. What are his plans over the next handful of years? So stay right there. We're going to be right back after this very quick, short commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
BizTalk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations, but before we jump into this episode, I need to do a quick shout out to Zoom. Zoom has been a sponsor of the Killer Innovation Show going on almost 2 years now. They started off with us from the very beginning, giving us access to their technologies that allows us to collaborate not only amongst the team here at the radio show, but my day job team as a CEO, where I've got teams scattered out all over the world, and we also use it for bringing the guests in to do their interviews. It allows us to literally act virtual around the world, but feel like we're in the rooms together. So if you haven't tried Zoom, look, they're like the #1 video collaboration app on iTunes. Gartner has rated them in the Magic Quadrant. You look at any of the surveys out there, they're ranked #1. So check them out. They've made an arrangement to actually give you a free account here as a listener to Killer Innovations. So check them out, killerinnovations.com/Zoom. That free account will allow you to collaborate with up to 50 people. So check it out. And if you do sign up for Zoom, let them know where you heard about it. Show appreciation for the sponsors. That's what allows us to make this content available to you free of charge. Let's continue our conversation with Nick. So Nick, as we were stepping out into the commercial break, we were talking about, you went out to the Peter Thiel thing, and Peter's well known for his, paying, willing to pay people not to go to college. But irrespective of that, what are your plans? You shared with us kind of your thinking, when you were you still finishing up your senior in high school. You've now graduated. What are your school plans? Is college in the headlights, or what are you planning on doing?
Yeah, so myself and my 3 other co-founders, who we all just graduated high school, we've all applied to colleges, but deferred admission. So we're all taking a gap year to work on this full time. I learned my senior year of high school that it's definitely hard to do both. And being this young, it's certainly the least risky time of our lives. It's still acceptable to live at home. We don't have a family to support, so it's all good.
Talk about the ultimately low burn rate, right?
Yeah,
keep the burn rate
definitely.
low.
I mean, that's been an exciting thing for investors and us alike, that we don't need that much money to sustain ourselves right now. And so we figure we're going to go at this, and if everything goes wrong, then it's just a really good thing to put on a college application.
That's one way to look at it. So you mentioned investors. Have you raised a round now for Myonic?
So we're just actually opening up our round in the next few weeks, and we plan to be closing at the end of the year.
Okay. How much are you raising in your first round?
We're raising $300,000. Yeah.
Good.
And that's going to take us through our FDA process, through the manufacturing, setting up all the logistics around that, and then we plan on raising our Series A to really bring the product to market and start distributing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does your team look like today? Who's on board the company?
Yeah, so It's still the original four founders. We're all friends in high school, and now we're running this full time. We have myself, the CEO, Sam is our CFO, Nate is our CTO, and then we have a designer as well. And we're all working on this full time. And then one thing we've recognized is there's definitely gaps in our knowledge, and so we're actually right now in the process of putting together an advisory board.
Okay. That was going to be my next question was, most companies in your stage, whether it's run by someone as young as you or even established, teams, the role of recruiting, an advisory board that's got the expertise in the area that you're going into.
Yeah, I mean, I think our inexperience and our new perspective has definitely been valuable in the innovations of our technology, but to commercialize it, there's certain things that are just the way they are. And so for that, we've looked to people with more experience.
Yeah, that's amazing because I get a lot of emails from people because of at HP, when you got to ship 40 million laptops into 168 countries, logistics tends to be one of the questions that everybody likes to ask questions about. But I would congratulate you on at least being far enough ahead to even have thought about making sure to fill in that experience gap into what it is you're doing. Talk a little bit more about the brain control, because last time you were here in the show, we talked about it, but it was more of a concept. It sounds like you've actually made some really good progress on that brain control function.
Yeah. So we use this headset that has 16 different points of contact with the scalp. It's not like a swim cap looking thing. It just sits on your head, really nice and easy. That connects via Bluetooth to our device. And then the training software that we've implemented allows you to just click a button, and then you think about closing your hand. It takes a picture of what that brainwave looks like when you're doing that. And then when the device is idling, it just references that. So it's always cross-referencing with those models that you feed it. Mm-hmm. And then it's able to recognize, hey, you're thinking about closing your hand, and it can trigger that command.
And what's the fidelity of that control, right? Because if you're looking about trying to return control and motion to people who have either had injury, stroke, or whatever, what's the fidelity of that control with using the brain control?
So we've kind of put together multiple different sensors. So the device, the emotive headset can pick up facial gestures. So if you bite down on your teeth or raise your eyebrows, it can detect that. And so those can all be mapped to muscle movements. And then as well as movements of the head. So that's one thing that we've really focused on recently is by moving your head up and down, you can change the intensity of the contraction. So if you want to hold an egg or crush a can, that's all controlled on moving your head up and down.
Wow.
We've been able to achieve individual finger movement. You can bend your elbow. You're not going to be able to get fine motor control where you can write something down, but you can feed yourself or drink a glass of water, those little things that a lot of us take for granted.
That is fantastic. That's probably more than I was even expecting, given it's only been a year since we last had the conversation on that. That is fantastic.
Like 9 months.
We're going to step out and take another quick commercial break here. But Nick, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what your experience has been with trials, with actual people using it. And then I also want to talk when we come back from the commercial break to talk more specifically about what are your next plans. You talked a little bit about you're opening up a kind of a pre-A, angel seed round, then you got your A round. But what are the plans for the business over the next 2 to 3 years? So we're going to tackle that when we come back from this quick commercial break. But in the meantime, let's, like I said, I'm going to give you a wrap up in the last segment of today's show about some of the things that we've talked about in previous shows, so you're not going to want to go anywhere on that. And then when we do come back, we'll pick up our conversation here with Nick, talking specifically about the status of where Myonic is. What does that plan look like over the next, 2 to 3 years? And then we'll talk a little bit more about, what's Nick's plans for himself. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
Devices Talk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. Before we jump into this segment of the show, need to do a quick shout out to HP, who's become a recent sponsor of the Killer Innovation Show. Now, some of you are going to say, hold on, Phil, this is a little biased. You used to be the CTO at HP, and that is true. I retired from HP in December of 11. I've maintained a very good relationship with HP. Totally believe in the products and the technologies. They've reached out and have now become a sponsor of the show. So it's a relatively new sponsorship. If you want to check out what's going on with the sponsorship and et cetera, you can hop on over to killinnovations.com/HP. I'd also encourage you to check out HP, particularly around product security. We're hearing about all the hacking stuff, et cetera, going on. And HP's been working on some pretty interesting stuff on security and securing your laptops and securing your desktops, something far beyond just the simple virus scanning. And we're going to do a special show up here sometime in the future talking about specifically around security, so stay tuned for that. There's a lot of really interesting innovations happening in security. I was just at an event in Washington, D.C. on cybersecurity, so it really is the hot topic. It's important for all of us. Privacy and security is important. So check out what HP is doing on that. You can go over to hp.com, or you can come over to killinnovations.com/HP and look specifically at the work that we're doing with them with regards to their support of the show and our engagement on what they're working on. So let's pick up with what we've been talking here with regards to Nick. Nick, let's talk a little bit about the user experience regarding specifically the users that you've had as far as interaction with your product and technologies.
Yeah. So far it's been a pretty organic test base through different PR and stuff like that. We've had people reach out to us and then want to test the device. And then we drive to their house with the device. We go and work with them for a couple hours. We see some success, and then we take it back with us. So we've worked with stroke patients and spinal cord injury patients, and with our previous iterations of the device, it's really kind of been intensive on our part. We have to do all the setup and the training sequences. But with our current device that we've recently been iterating upon, we are able to give it to somebody and let them use it. So actually one of the exciting things we have coming up is in the fall, we plan on launching a beta, which would be with 50 to 100 users, just getting the device, we send it to them, and they set it up, they use it, and then we get some data back on how we can better improve the product and how usable it really is.
So one of the things you talked about before with regards to for instance, your angel round of getting through your FDA process, what have you learned about all of the FDA rules with regards to your kind of a device?
Yeah, so we're filing something called a 510K, which is basically saying to the FDA, hey, this isn't anything new. It's just like other TENS units, but a little different in this way. And so the FDA doesn't want to see anything new. But investors also look at that statement, and they want to see that you are doing something new. So it's a very fine line that you have to walk. But luckily, we've been connected with some great people, and our FDA approval process should only take about 6 months. Another reason for that is that on just getting it to people as quick as possible. And so for our first year of our go-to-market strategy, we're going to be selling directly to our consumer. Instead of going through all the bureaucracies of clinical trials and going through the insurance system, which would take much longer and ultimately wouldn't necessarily be much better for our users.
Right. So what are your plans for the future? What is it that you have on the horizon for Myonic?
Yeah, so we're launching this beta in the fall. Actually, tomorrow we have a new website going up where users can sign up for be put into a pool to hopefully use our device. Past that, we're raising this round, and at the beginning of 2019, we plan to go to market with our device. So the next year will really be a lot around iterating with our device, launching the beta, and then going through all the FDA and manufacturing solutions to get it to market.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you say you're launching the website tomorrow. What's the URL for that website if people want to have a family member or somebody that they want to get into the beta?
It's myonic.tech, myonic.tech. And yeah, so we have tomorrow we're launching our new newsletter and our beta sign up. So people can sign up for our newsletter to keep informed. And then if you're a potential user for our device, you can sign up for that beta, and then you'll receive special updates and have the chance to be pulled out and be a participant in our beta.
Great, and we'll have all those links over at Kill Innovations in the show notes, so you can find that really easily. But myonic.tech, and they're launching that tomorrow. So if you're listening to the show live, you're getting a head start. If you're listening on the podcast, you're late. That'll teach you to listen live on Sundays. And then, so you've got the beta coming up, and then you talked earlier about you're working on an angel round, then you're going to raise your A round. What's been the engagement level with investors showing interest in what you're working on?
Yeah, so we're kind of in that, as a lot of our mentors have said, building investor relations, they don't want to see dots, they want to see lines. So you got to show them progress. They're not going to sit down in a single meeting. And so we've had a lot of initial coffee meetings with the investors, and we're kind of bringing them through the pipeline. And then in the middle of raising our round, we have this exciting development of our beta. So it's definitely a process, but we're kind of in the early stages of that. We've definitely seen some excitement around what we're doing, though.
Well, that's great. Yeah. And then where do you think the company is in 2 to 3 years? Are you going to continue with a sell direct model, or are you looking at other business models?
Yeah. So in our first year of go-to-market, so 2018 will be strictly to consumer. We've been able to build the device for less than $1,000, which lets us keep the price very low for those users. And then beyond that, I think one important thing to stress is that this isn't our only product. So this is the main thing that we've been harping on. But we also have some other innovations, all in the space of helping people with disabilities regain what they've lost. And so we have some other technologies that we plan to launch in the next 2 to 3 years.
Oh, great. So it's, that, I think that is also kudos to you and your thinking about trying to avoid being the one-trick pony, right? Yeah. That you only got you've only got one approach. So here's the question. You and I were talking before the show, even before we started the broadcast, about college, no college. You're doing kind of a gap year thing. Yeah. I think the question that a lot of people have is and you're in that position, kind of, is college the right thing or not the right thing? How do you think about it? Because you're a young entrepreneur. You're trying to balance between college and no college. How do you look at that?
Yeah, so I was a really, really good student for 11 years. And then I found something that I was very passionate about. And once I found that, school kind of fell by the wayside for me. And there were definitely things I could have done better there. But I think if you find something that you have the capacity to work on full time, and if you're able to be passionate about and see that fulfillment in your work, for me, it was never really a hard decision. I know college is always going to be there if I decide that's what I need, but I think building real world experience and being able to apply what you have learned in school to the real world it's an experience that really can't be matched. And so that's why I made that decision. It never was something tough where I was having to weigh it very heavily in my mind.
Perfect. Well, actually, Nick and I were talking because many of you know I dropped out of college in my junior year, a very similar kind of story. So I have my own opinion, and a lot of people ask me, but my memories are a little faded from the late 70s. So Nick's is a little bit more recent. So we're gonna step off and do a quick commercial break. When we come back, I've asked Nick to kind of prepare some advice to you, the listeners, based on what he's learned over the last year of coming up with the idea and then actually now having his business and doing this full time post his high school graduation. So when we come back, you want to catch Nick's advice on what he's learned over the last year. So stay right there. We'll be right back.
Biz Talk Radio. This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are here in the studio. We're wrapping up our conversation with Nick. Nick, I'd asked you going into the break for you to share some advice with listeners. You've had the 1 year thing. Now you're a lot more educated now than you were a year ago. You talked a little bit about your TEDx experience. So what advice would you give somebody? What have you learned a year later that you think would be helpful to somebody just getting started?
Well, I think one important thing is I think a lot of times the big tech giants that are out there, like you hear names like Zuckerberg and all those people, are very mystified. And at the end of the day, no matter what industry it is or whoever you're dealing with, people are just people. And that I was very scared interacting with high-level executives from different companies, and I didn't know how that was going to go. But honestly, everyone's a person, and if you can treat them that way, it can be easy to get ahead. The other piece of advice I would give is to really just go all in on what it is that you're passionate about. I think a little bit my company suffered just a little bit by doing high school at the same time, and it was very difficult because I was still taking all advanced classes with a full schedule, and it kind of took a toll on me, and it took a toll on the business a little bit. So I should have thinned out my schedule a little bit. That way I could focus full time on Myonic as well. So I think that's another important thing, is just pick one thing and do that really well.
Yeah, I think the whole issue of focus it becomes an important part, right? Because there's everybody's got what now the big thing is people having the side hustle. You got your full-time job, and then you're trying to do the 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. to get something started on the side. But it's really, you had your side hustle going, but the problem was it was full-time school was the main thing, and then the Myonic was your side hustle, and it's hard to put enough focus on it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think the younger you are, the easier it is to do that. Because again, for me, like even now, Myonic isn't paying the bills, and I have to have a part-time job to make money. But I've really just kind of mentally put all my energy into Myonic. And the younger you are, the easier it is to go all in and to commit to something like that. But I think it definitely does help by being able to focus on something.
Yeah, I can tell you, like for instance, I don't do red-eye flights anymore. I don't do all-nighters. I'm beyond that. The benefit of being, when I did 13 startups before I got my first IPO. So I had 13 companies I was with, either side hustles or full-time gigs. But I did it when I was much younger, either just married or had little kids. So the benefit of youth.
Yeah, the benefit of youth and just like the age that we live in now, because everything is so connected. I mean, I've had the opportunity to get help from people all around the world in different countries, in Silicon Valley, in New York, different places. Because the world is so connected, you are able to have a big network of support that can help bring you along the way. So definitely take advantage of that, I think, as a key component as well.
So Nick, if people want to follow what you're up to, what's the best place to track what you're doing and what Myonic's up to?
Yeah, so we have a Twitter, which is just @Myonic. Our website with our new newsletter that's launching is on myonic.tech. Again, you can go there, you can sign up, and then you'll receive updates on what we're doing. So yeah, those are the two main places that you can follow what we're doing. Also, if you want to hear me talking about some stuff and about how to use your naive curiosity, you can go on YouTube and just Google Nick Titus TEDxCU, and you will find my talk as well. And feel free to share that around if you'd like it. So yeah.
Great. Well, we'll have all that information on the show notes, so you can hop on over to killinnovations.com and check that out. Hey, Nick, thanks for taking the time out, for giving us the update on Myonic. We'll have to check back in with you in about another year to see how you're going. So the listeners love following what you're up to. And you are an inspiration to all of us, including us old fogies, but also for the youth out there solving some critical issues. The work you're doing is great, and I congratulate you and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up today's show. We've just got a couple of minutes here. I want to do give you some quick updates on what's going on here. If you've listened to the show on orphan innovations, you heard me tell a personal story about my youngest grandson, Caleb, who is diagnosed with West syndrome. We actually have more information about his condition, so people have been asking for an update, so I thought best just to give the update here. And that is the fact that his DNA sequencing has been completed. We have found the cause for his condition. It's what's called a microdeletion. It's a very specific microdeletion, and I don't have my notes here in front of me on the exact microdeletion. So this is a long-term condition for Caleb. We don't know what the outcome is. I'll put that in just as a quick little note in the show notes so you can find it over there, or maybe I'll tweet it or whatever for those that are interested in the very specific condition. A number of you have sent us emails on articles you've read on West syndromes and offers for introductions to doctors, and I can't tell you what that has meant to our family. I greatly appreciate your support for what we're going through. Just so you know, we will be spending more time with Caleb and my daughter and son-in-law and my other two grandkids in Florida. So we're working arrangements to be spending more time with them to help them out. So we will continue to be doing the show. Nothing changes. Nothing is going away. But we may be doing more pre-recorded shows than we've been doing in the past. But I do greatly appreciate your support. And with that, I again thank you for all of your offers of prayers and kind thoughts. It means a lot to myself and my family, and we greatly appreciate it. With that, we're going to wrap up this week's show. Stay connected. Hop on over to killinnovations.com, and we'll talk to you soon. Don't let the innovation antibodies get you down. Keep on innovating. Take that idea and change the world. We'll talk to you next week.
The opinions you hear on Biz Talk Radio are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of this station, Biz Talk Radio, its management, or advertisers. The information on Biz Talk Radio does not constitute a recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or service. If you have any questions about Biz Talk Radio, contact us at 817-274-1609 or at biztalkradio.com. Biz Talk Radio.